We are in week 5, the final week of finding your way back to God. And there have been some crazy cool stories that have emerged in just the last 4 weeks. I'm excited about where we're headed into week 5. I'm Brian Phipps. I'm the Next Steps pastor here at Westside, and honored to be with you. I get to hear all these stories, and the crazy thing is trying to figure out which ones to share in a short period of time. So here's just a couple of the stories that have come out. First, just want to start with saying, go God for 90 plus people or couples that have stepped up to lead a brand new host group for finding your way back to God. That's room for 900 new folks. How about that for them? That's awesome. It's amazing. And the people that helped them win, way to go. One of those hosts was 14 years old, little gal out at Speedway, wanted to invite her friends from school to experience this, finding your way back to God thing at her house. Ended up having over 44 kids come and hang out at her house. How about that? Pretty sweet. We have campuses up at all 3 of Lansing's correctional institutions, campuses, minimum, medium, and maximum security. And when Dan did, I think it was week 3, the Awakening to Help, there was like 44 guys who came forward. 30% of all the guys that were attending that service at that time came forward and said, I need help. And said, Jesus, I want to either recommit or commit to him for the first time. 8 of those guys was baptized. A big, big day at Lansing. Yes, so cool. Such a neat thing to see. Probably the most fun story for me is watching one of the guys in my fireside group on Sunday night was experiencing this. I talked to him about 9 months ago. He had an experience in his life where God just did not show up the way he thought God should. Got angry at God. There was an emotional separation from God at that moment. And he's just been dry since. I remember getting together with him. He said, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I'm going to become an atheist or become a full-fledged Christian. I've got to do one all the way. I can't just sit here in the middle, which was a cool thing for him to be processing. So he ends up coming to my group on Finding Your Way Back to God, and he's been taking the dare to pray those prayers that we've been talking about. If you've been a part of the group, God, if you're real to me, or God, if you're real, make yourself real to me, and etc. And last Sunday night, we're sitting there around our fire, and his body just starts shaking. He says, guys, I just have to tell you, for the first time in years, I am experiencing the love of God again. And he's just choking up tears saying this. It's just an amazing, amazing thing. And what blows my mind, if you think about it, all of this is happening because one man in a remote area of a faraway nation told a short story that continues to live on. That man's name is Jesus. The area was the northern area, the lake area of Palestine. And the story is the story of a father that had 2 sons. And the younger son took all of his inheritance. He said, Dad, I want it early. Give me my portion of the estate. And he went off and he squandered it, used it for whatever living he wanted to at the time, finds himself in a hole. Finds himself in a pigsty, the thing actually says, where he's eating the same food that the pigs are. And the story, if you're a note taker, grab your notes, write this in. The story that is so powerful and this is just transcended time is the story of a prodigal son experiencing 5 awakenings. We've talked about them as wake-up calls, aha moments, whatever you want to say that God gave to him to invite him back home. The Father inspires in him to help him find his way back home. So just to make sure everybody kind of gets the story up until now, let's just go back through these aha moments that he's had, these wake-up calls. The first one was awakening to longing. He says, there's got to be more. I'm eating the same thing that the pigs are eating. This is horrible. There has to be more to life than this. This does not make sense. But the problem is he'd blown it. He'd burned all of his bridges. He had no more resources. He was dry. And that's when the second wake-up call hit him, the waking to regret. I wish I could start over. Is there any way I can get a redo? Or as Rob said that week, can I get a mulligan? Can somebody give me a mulligan? I'm all out. And he realized he couldn't. He could not do it on his own. He was stuck, and that was the wake-up call to help. He says, I can't do this alone. I'm going to go back to my father. I'm going to beg and plead and see if he'll take me in as one of his slaves. So he gets up and he starts to make his way back to the Father. He's reciting his sorry story. He's reciting his whole speech that he's going to say, Father, just take me back as a slave. I know I don't deserve to be your son. He's going through all that. And when he gets there, he's got the Father who's picked up his robe and just in complete insane style for a man of his stature runs out and embraces the Son. And the Son has a wake-up call. My Father loves me deeply, in spite of my foolishness, in spite of me choosing stuff over him. My Father is crazy, crazy, crazy in love with me. This week we wrap it up with the awakening to life. And the thing we're going to be talking about is now this is totally living. This is what I want. This is the stuff I want to hold on to. Everything else so far has been a waste. This is it. This is what I want to hold on to. Now, let me just run back through the story real quick so you can see why the Son was experiencing life. These are the words that the Father said when he came back. He said, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, because this son of mine was what? You see it there? He was dead. Now, he wasn't physically dead. That's going to be an important part of where we go. He was dead, the Father says, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and then he was found. So here's the Son. He's groveling his way back, and he gets a response that he was totally not expecting. Blows his mind. He's going around, I've got a ring back on, I've got the authority, I got sandals back on, I haven't had shoes for a while, I've got the robe, the calf, I'm eating, and I'm eating like crazy. This is amazing. You ever had one of those moments? That little nexus moment where the stars are lined up, the planets are lined up, there's adrenaline coursing through your veins. Maybe it was a time when you made a team that you wanted to be on, or you asked out a girl that you've been waiting to ask out for forever, and she said yes, or a boy that you wanted to ask you out asks you out, and you go, and you're all excited, and you're going, Mom, you're not gonna believe it. By the way, my girl, has a boy now. No, he's a great kid. Absolutely great kid. So it's just this moment, she's having this time where just stuff is just coursing through her veins. You land that dream job, or you get the house you've been saving for, whatever it is. Well, I had a moment like this recently at a Styx concert. One of the best shows I've ever seen in my whole life. I was raised singing Styx songs, and I love to sing them, and they're great. And those guys are just entertainers. And so I couldn't wait to go see this show. And I'm singing, I'm just having fun, and I'm having one of those moments. I keep telling Carol, I just don't want this to end. And she's like, shut up, you're making me want it to end. But I was just waiting. I'm just enjoying this whole thing. But waiting for their best song ever, Come Sail Away. Come Sail Away is just the best song ever, breaks into this funky music interlude, and then builds up to this amazing power chord. And I couldn't wait for this to actually happen in the show. For weeks, I'm thinking of this moment. But what I did not expect is for the thing to get even bigger than what I thought it would be. So I'm going to show you the clip, actually. Listen for what came out of my mouth. Here we go. It gets better, I promise. Here. Oh my gosh. I could not produce that out of this body again for the life of me. But that is it, man. They hit that chord and the lights and all that build up. It was just zzz. So why in the world am I embarrassing myself like that? Here's why. And this better work. I believe that's a fraction of what Jesus wants to us experience in an increasing measure for the rest of our lives. Period. And if you think I'm just blowing smoke, check it out. He said this himself. John 10:10. Would you read this one out loud with me? Because it sounds crazy at the front, but it is legit. This is the verse that I spend the most time with. Let's read it together out loud. I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. And I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. Check out what the word abundantly in the original language means. It means exceedingly more. It's just like when we got to that part of that concert, I had no idea that they would freeze on that, start, smashing around the cymbals and freaking the lights out, and my whole body's just going, and then when they hit it, it was just amazing. And what Jesus is saying is, I'm coming to this place so that you can have life, like the Son, okay? Like the Son experienced, but increasingly more for the rest of your life. Now, this idea may fly in the face of what you understand to be religion. All right? If that's the case, good. Good. Religion is a word that means something that you adhere to, you're kind of strung to. It's a set of behaviors and practices that we do in order to somehow try to please God, all the while feeling like we're never pleasing him. And Jesus came and railed against that, saying, no, I have come to take what has been broken, what has been messed up, and what has been maligned, and bring meaning, purpose, joy, passion, life back into it. Look at what it says. We don't have to go any further than this actual verse that we just read, but to read the first part of it to get the full context. Look what it says. It says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they might have life and have it to the full. It's an interesting play that's going on here in John chapter 10. Jesus is comparing the voice of a thief to the voice of the good shepherd. He's the good shepherd. The thief is the spiritual enemy. He's got plenty of names in the Bible: Lucifer, Satan, the devil. They're all in there. And there's a voice that he has, that he speaks into us, trying to take away life. Now, does anybody have some damage that the thief has done, either to themselves or someone else has inflicted upon us? Somebody's come and stolen, taken away life, cheated us, hurt us, or we ourselves, in response to that, have blown it up even more. Jesus is pointing out there is a source for that. The source is not going to go away. But he says there's a good voice there too. The thief has come to do his damage. He'll continue to do his damage as long as he can and as long as we'll let him. But I have come that you might have life in an increasingly more kind of way. So here's what I want to do. If our life, we're talking about life, if our life has a past and a present and a future, all of us have that. Hopefully the future is a nice long future for you. But we all have a past and a present and a future, and I believe that the thief and the shepherd are both very active in every area of that coming to us. So what I want to do just for the next few minutes is just kind of walk through the past and then the present and the future and listen to the voice first of the thief and then of the shepherd in each of those contexts. And as we're going through them, I want you to ask yourself two questions. The first one is, which of those do I want to hear? Which of those is life? And I think you know the answer to what that's going to be. But the second question to think through is, which one of these do I actually hear more? That makes sense where we're going? We're going to listen to the thief and the shepherd in our past, present, and our future, and asking the question, which of these is life, and which one of these do I hear more? Let's start with our past. What does the thief's voice sound like when it comes to our past? Write this in the blank, if you will. The thief condemns or idealizes. The thief condemns or idealizes. Let me start with idealize. You ever heard the phrase the golden years or the golden days or the golden era or whatever it is in my life? For instance, if you were a quarterback in high school and real popular, or captain of the cheerleaders, or you were in a performance club, music or arts in some way, and those were the highlight years of your life, the enemy, the thief, will want you in your present to always look back and remember what those glory days were like and try to relive them again. He'll idealize that. Man, I was really living back then when I was playing drums in that band, but I'm not anymore. I'm just a blank. Boy, is that stealing from you or adding to your life? It's stealing. A lot of us in our glory days made a whole lot of mistakes in that scenario. Made choices that we didn't want to make, or had people make those choices against us and put us in a pretty difficult situation. And the thief in that moment wants to condemn you for what you've done. You screw up. How could you do that? How could you be that? If that was you then, that's you now. And you continue to be condemned. The last service, I was here, just poured my heart out like I'm doing right now for 25 minutes. I went 3 or 4 or 5 minutes too long. You know the only thing I heard in my head? You went too long. Anybody else do that? That's the thief. He's coming to steal, to kill, and destroy. What does the shepherd say? The shepherd. I've been to that church. You never know. You just never know. The shepherd forgives and redeems the past. There's never a moment that Jesus, when you bring your past to him, your failures in the past, where he doesn't say, I'm not only going to forgive this, but I'm going to redeem it. And there's a big difference. Forgiving is saying, I'm not going to even remember it anymore. It's no longer in the books of things you've done against me. It's done. I paid for it when I died on the cross. I took all your junk. I killed it. It's done with me. I don't know why you keep bringing it back up. That's forgiving. Redeeming is saying, I'll take that broken mess you were in and I'll redeem it, cash it in like a coupon. I'm going to cash it in for value. Meaning, you had this major problem in the past. I don't want to bring them up because they tend to bring too much junk with them when we bring them up. But I'm going to take that and I'm going to help you serve someone else and lift them out of that situation. So now you don't even have bad stings in your memory. When you think about it, you're actually watching God use that to help someone else. Which one of those voices do you want to hear? Do you want to hear the forgiveness and to be about the redemption? Absolutely. Which one do you hear the most? Here's an interesting thing. The gap between what you do hear and what you want to hear is the amount of abundantly more life Jesus has for you to live right now. Does that make sense? It'll be that way as we continue to go through. That's just the past. Let's talk about the present. What does the thief want to do when you're present? The thief wants to confuse and mislead. The thief wants to confuse and mislead. He was like this in the Garden of Eden, way back in Genesis chapter 3. God had said, Adam and Eve, you can eat of any tree in the garden but one. There's one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Stay away from that one. Everything else, fair game. For whatever reason, Adam and Eve decide they're going to nestle up next to the one that they're not supposed to. Just like the rest of us, intrigued, right, with whatever we're told no. It's the one thing we're going to commit ourselves to doing most of the time. That should tell us something, by the way. It's an interesting part of who we are. He goes up, and it's interesting what the thief does. He confuses them first. He said, surely God didn't say you can't eat of any tree in the garden. And then he tempts them and misleads them to make the wrong choice. What the enemy wants to do is he wants to take what's bad and make it look good, and take what's good and make it look what? Bad. Now, I've got two things up here. I have a Hershey bar, and I've got a protein bar. And every afternoon when I'm at work at 2:30, I have a choice I can make. Now, I know that this thing right here, this tastes pretty good. It tastes great, and it's filled with protein, soy protein, building blocks of life. It's gonna satisfy me quite quickly. It's gonna give me the energy that I need to persevere and go. This is beauty. This is life. This right here seems a whole lot better. It's sweeter, it's sexier, it's all those kind of things. The problem is I eat this, I'm gonna have a what? I'm gonna have a surge. It's gonna be fun. I'm going to go around the office saying hi to everybody and giving high fives for a little while. And then I'm going to what? I'm going to crash. And for whatever reason, at 2:30, my brain that knows right now this is the deal, don't do this, all of a sudden, takes what's bad, makes it look good, takes what's good, makes it look bad. Have you experienced this before? I don't need to talk about this anymore. That's what he does. By the way, what did the younger son do? The guy had everything. The guy had a very beautiful present, had an awesome future. Everything the father had was his. And he said, I want to chase something more. Give me what's coming to me. And he takes it and he runs and he has the surge and he has the expected crash. That's the enemy. Confuses and misleads. Jesus does something very different. He encourages and guides. The voice of Jesus, the Good Shepherd, will always encourage and always guide. It's a wonderful story in the New Testament of a woman. It's actually a woman and a man caught in adultery. It's just the woman that gets exposed. It's really an unfair kind of situation. Woman's out there naked, embarrassed, whatnot, and they actually bring her to Jesus to basically put her on trial. And the men that are there have their rocks to stone her. It's interesting, they probably brought their money to do something else earlier. But they brought their rocks to stone her this time. So here's just like the prodigal son, busted, empty, without anything. And Jesus basically gets in front of her and protects her, pushes all the judgmental haters off, runs them away, then stoops down and says, I don't condemn you. That's an encouraging voice, not a condemning voice, not a confusing voice. And then with absolute clarity, he says, leave this life. There's no life here for you with this. Interestingly enough, he gave her a pathway to go on too. It was called walking with him for the rest of his earthly career. And she experienced life beyond what she ever thought possible. Again, it's the two voices, the thief, the shepherd. Which one is life? Which one do you hear most often? The gap between what you hear and what you want to hear is the amount of life that you could be living that's yet to be claimed. Let's move on to the future. When it comes to the future, the thief discourages. You ever heard that phrase? You're never going to amount to much. You don't work as hard as I do. You don't have what it takes. Boy, that voice is prevalent. You're not pretty. You'll never be. You don't look good in those shoes. Whatever it is. I don't know. I'm in a ladies' discipleship group now, and they come in and say, oh, that's so cute. And I'm out of place there, really, in that regard. But those are the voices. Yeah, there's a discouraging voice. You're never going to amount to much. This isn't going to get any better. It's never going to be beautiful. You might as well give up. Wow. That's a mean voice. That is stealing. That's killing. That's destroying. What does Jesus have to say? What does the shepherd speak into our future? Jesus gives an increasing amount of hope. An increasing amount of hope for a beautiful and a powerful and a significant future. Way back in the Old Testament, Jesus and his Spirit spoke through Jeremiah where he says, I know the plans I have for you. There's plans to give you hope in a future. And that's not just pie in the sky stuff either, you know? Not pie in the sky at all. In fact, when Jesus does get a hold of us, it says his Spirit moves in and lives in us and actually changes things from the inside out. And Dan refers to this a lot as well, just an angry guy early on. Angry. I was just thinking this morning about the things that I've said to my kids and just having all that replay and going, man, I'm just so grateful that over time that the Spirit of Jesus got bigger than the Spirit of Brian. Changed my character, more patient, more loving, more kind, more self-controlled. All that is what the Bible calls fruit. And when you experience fruit or actual change that someone else is giving you, instead of you mustering on your own through some type of self-help activity or whatnot, you're going, there's hope. Because if I can move from here to here, I'm pretty sure I can move from here to here with his help. And that's an encouraging future. But it's not just character. God has a calling on every one of his followers. A beautiful calling to come and to take you and to give you spiritual gifts, the Bible says, so that you can start to play a role in making a difference in the lives of others. If you remember the story of Peter from John chapter 21, here's the guy that did the most colossal fail ever. He denies Jesus 3 times right before he's crucified. So I'm imagining that as soon as Jesus is raised from the dead, this guy's about to have an anxiety attack about the first conversation they're going to have. This is not going to go well. What's he going to say? Is he going to condemn me? What's the voice going to be? And the voice was, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Then game on. Game on. Feed my sheep. You're back in the mission. You're engaged. Accept my love. And as a cute little thing that Jesus, only Jesus could think of to do is, you denied me 3 times, I'm going to affirm your role in the kingdom 3 times. And he asked him 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me? Yes, I do. Then feed my sheep. Game on. Here we go. And Peter grew in significance. My life has grown in joy and significance. I cannot wait to get up on Thursday mornings at 4:20 to go hang with 13 guys in my Leaders Made group that are just experiencing more and more life. That is what I do, and God has something like that for every one of his followers. And as you engage in that, there's more and more power over time. So again, the voice of the thief in your future, the voice of the shepherd for your future, which one is life? And which one do you hear more? And the gap between what you actually hear and what you want to hear is the amount of life yet to be lived. There's an interesting thing that we need to teach here about this story, because deeply embedded into this story are some big-time clues for us to grab a hold of. I think every one of us would be inspired. Yeah, I want life more than I want death, and I'm hearing a whole lot more death than I'm hearing life. Okay, but how do I actually start to get there? There's some clues, and the clues are this. If you were back here at Easter this year, I taught on 2 words that are both translated life. The New Testament is written in an ancient language of Greek, and there are 2 words that are translated life here. One is bios, and the other one is zoe. Bios and zoe. Bios is a familiar sound to you. We translate biology from it, the study of living things, the things that are alive here on this planet. It's very physical, it's very temporal, it's what everyone experiences who's fogging a mirror right now. You are biotically alive. But there's another word in here that's zoe, and it's translated God life. It's not temporary, it's eternal. It's not physical, it's spiritual. It's a relationship with God. Now, interesting, do you remember what it said? My son was dead, but now he's alive? Obviously the son was physically alive. He walked home to the Father, but there was a spiritual deadness in him that he couldn't see. And when he gets home, the Father says, my son was dead, but now he is alive. There's a new life. There's a Zoe. He got it. He got what heaven's about. He got the voice of the shepherd. And he's hooked. Now, let's go back and try to determine which word in this story is bios. So blow your mind if you've never heard this before. When the son goes to the father early in the story and says, son or father, I want my inheritance. It says that the father separated his bios, gave it to the son, and the son left with it. The father divided his life. The father divided his accumulation. The father divided up what he had down here. And the son went and did what? Crashed and burned. Found out that bios was nothing. So when it comes down to it, our ultimate choice is to listen to a voice from the thief that always says, be satisfied with what? Bios. That's what he did to the son. Stole from him. Left him empty. And the shepherd is always the father saying, be satisfied with me. With everything I have. Is this making sense? Do you feel the own tension in your own life? When the stuff of bios, your career, your 401k, your relationships, all the stuff down here, when we want to hold on to it, it's what gets lured into the brokenness. When the Father all the while is saying, I have life more than you could ever ask or imagine right here. The shepherd will always invite you to Zoe. The thief will always invite you to bios. Now, we've got 2 significant problems facing us when we use this tension, when we walk into this tension. You ready? Write them down. The first one is this: our longing for more is terminal. Our longing for more is terminal. We will always want more. As long as things are broken, we'll always want to be a little more fixed. You're always going to have that longing. It's not the longing that's the problem. Here's the problem, number 2. We're far too easily pleased. We're willing to be satisfied with the sexy little shiny object that comes our way and lures us into trouble. Look at the way C.S. Lewis says this: our desires are not too strong, but they're too weak. We're half-hearted creatures fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. Did I do a little bit of jujitsu to you? A little bit of spiritual jujitsu? It's not that your longings are broken or bad. It's just that they're not strong enough to always be satisfied with what the Father has to offer, the Zoe. So finding your way God has been a story of awakenings. And the ultimate awakening for the younger son is that bios can't deliver. Bios cannot deliver. It's an interesting awakening for the older son in the story. We don't cover this part in this series, but it deserves a whole series in and of itself. The older brother, catch this. This is particularly for those of us who've thought, well, I'm not really that far from God. I'm not far from God at all. In fact, I've got God kind of figured out, and all these other people that are far away can enjoy this series, and I'll wait for the next thing. The older brother, when the son came back and the father started sharing the bios again, do you know what happened to him? It says he left the party. He's so irate at what the father would do that he leaves, he walks, he goes out. The father chases him just like he did the younger son, but the older brother, that dude had a lock on the bios of the father. And they could not be stripped out of his hands. He was so angry. He'd done all the work. He'd worked hard. He'd kept the rules. He did what the father asked. But all the while, he's doing all that just to earn what the father would ultimately give him. And interestingly enough, when his affection was more for the stuff of the father than of the father himself, the whole thing got yanked out from under him. He's the only guy that didn't make it to the party. His lock on bios was so strong. I think that's why Jesus says it this way: whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. Do you hear that? It's a crazy economy. But as soon as that light bulb goes off in your head and say, as long as Jesus is enough, I'll always have more, then life will make sense. In fact, that's the series' big idea. Write it in the blank there. When Jesus is enough, you'll always have more. Always have more. Here's a picture that I want to share with you. You might be wondering, why in the world, Phipps, have you had this up here the whole time? It's because this stuff right here, I can't get enough of anymore. In fact, I don't know if you can see this. Can you get close here? I actually have the Greek word Zoe burned onto my arm. I need help remembering to choose the right thing. I don't know about y'all. That one's right there. Make sure you choose the right thing. And here's why. I've discovered that this idea is true. When Jesus is enough, you'll always have more. Here's the beginning of my walk with Jesus. And like everybody else's, it just spikes quick. And then life happens, and you get discouraged and disenfranchised, and things start to drift, and you start this cycle away from the Father, but the Father runs out to you again, gives you the 3, 2, 1, wake up, and you start to move back up, and you're going, oh, this is cool. And then life gets busy. You have kids, life gets busy, work gets to be a challenge, and you drift. And what does the Father do? 3, 2, 1, wake up. I'm inviting you back in. More robe, more sandals, more life. And then over time, the drifts get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then one day you're home. Who doesn't want that? But it all hinges down to just telling Jesus that he's enough. I don't need anything else. Whatever you offer me. Here's the funny thing. Chase bios, you won't get it or Zoe. Period. You chase Zoe, you get it. And all of a sudden, whatever bios you have is enough. Let's take some time and just tell Jesus ourselves from our own guts that he is more than enough.